Good evening, everyone. My name is Oscar Garcia. I'm the President and CEO of the Mountain View Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to the City Council Candidate Forum put together by us, the Chamber, and also in partnership with the League of Women Voters of Los Altos and Mountain View. And, we're not this weekend, but the following weekend, we have the Art and Wine Festival coming up, and we were going through some photos of the Art and Wine Festival, and we came across a photo that you see to your left of Castro Street back in the, I believe it was in the mid to late 80s or maybe 90s when Castro Street was being torn up. And those of us like myself that have grown up in Mountain View and been here for many years know that Mountain View has gone through many transformations over the years. Old Mill is no longer around, those of you that remember the Old Mill, Linda's Burgers, and so forth. And the thing though that reminds me about this photo that's to your left is that I'm willing to bet that there's probably some controversy that occurred during that time, difference of opinions of what Castro Street needed to look like, shutting it down, the impact of businesses. Yet today, when you looked at the photo on the right, and we look how beautiful downtown Mountain View is and the compliments that we get from those of us that are here and other people from other cities, it really truly is a testament to the uniqueness of Mountain View and coming together and putting aside eventually our differences. And I believe that today we are at another crossroads where we have some major issues, very important issues before us. And we have 9 candidates before us that we want some answers. And we're not going to be able to get through all the questions today. We are going to have a reception afterwards from 8 to 8:30, but we're going to do our best to get through the questions. I do want to ask Jonathan Noble from Microsoft and thank them for hosting us. He'll say a few words.
Thank you, Oscar, and thank you everyone for being here. On behalf of Microsoft's almost 2,500 Silicon Valley-based employees, welcome to Microsoft Silicon Valley. This is our main campus, and we're very happy that you all are able to join us tonight. As part of our giving back to the community, we recognize the importance of forums like this, and we're very happy to be able to partner with the Chamber, the League of Women Voters. On this particular event, as many of you know, we also host a whole series of events in cooperation with organizations, whether it's Silicon Valley Leadership Group, Silicon Valley Education Foundation, and many others around policy issues of key importance to the community, oftentimes education, STEM, et cetera. And we are thrilled to be able to have you all here to talk not only about those educational issues, but much more broad set of issues that are impacting Mountain View in particular. So thank you for your leadership, your willingness to come forward. As part of Microsoft's commitment to helping people realize their full potential, we are engaging the community in numerous ways, whether it's our Technology for Good program, where nonprofits, C3 nonprofits, are eligible for technology and software grants, absolutely free of charge. We give away over $500 million worth of software every year, including millions of dollars here locally. We also encourage our employees to participate in our GIVE program, where we match volunteer hours with dollars, as well as match their contributions to nonprofits with company money. Over 84% of the employees on this campus and in this area participate in that program. That is a rate that cannot be matched, and it's something that we take with a great deal of pride. In fact, my first day on the job, my boss says there's 2 things we care about, and you better believe the GIVE campaign was one of them. So it's a big part of who we are, and once again, thrilled to be able to do our small part by hosting this event to help the community. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan, and Microsoft. I also want to thank KMVT. They are recording, and it's going to be uploaded to KMVT's YouTube channel. And then early on the slide, we also indicated the dates and times that it's going to be aired on the local TV station. Okay, we also, if you want to be tweeting or follow up what's going on, the Twitter handle is MV Candidate Forum. And you can also tweet your questions to LWV _of _LAMV. So that's for League of Women Voters of Los Altos Mountain View. Okay, really quickly, so we have some elected officials, and no disrespect to you elected officials that are here, but we do care more today about the folks up here. I'm going to go really quickly through your names. We do want to acknowledge you, though. So we have those registered, Councilmember Margaret Abakoga, Chris Clark, our mayor, John Inks, and Mike Kasperzak. So thank you very much to our elected officials. But that's from City Council. We do have Bill Lambert, who is on the Board of Trustees for the Mountain View Woodsman School District, and then also Susan Sweely with the Mountain View Los Altos High School Board. Did I miss anyone else? Oh, sorry. Joe Missionary, who's the president of Mountain View Los Altos High School District as well. Thank you. All right. And then we have our Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. If you can just stand up, and we'll acknowledge you as well. So take your time. Yes, and standing up. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. I see you. So appreciate it. Okay. So I want to invite Kathy Lazarus, who's the president of the League of Women Voters. Where are you, Kathy?
I'm right here.
All right.
Thank you all for coming today. It's great to see you at this co-sponsored event between the Chamber and the League of Women Voters. Just very briefly, I want to let you know that yesterday was the 94th anniversary of the League of Women Voters. It was founded out of the women's suffrage movement and was formed right after women were given the right to vote. Today, the men and women, thank you. Today, the men and women of the League of Women Voters work to encourage informed and active participation in local government, and we're pleased to see all of you here. We influence public policy through education and advocacy. We're a nonpartisan organization, and we never support any political party or candidate, never support or oppose. So we hope you'd consider joining us, and also as it gets close to the election and you're thinking about filing your ballot, just a couple of thoughts for you. Each election season, the League of Women Voters produces what's called Smart Voter, and you can find us online at smartvoter.org. And there you plug in your address and your zip code, and up will come information for you, nonpartisan, unbiased information about all the candidates, local issues, and state propositions that you will be voting for. So it's a terrific, handy tool to get a great overview of what's coming up in your area for the election. So check it out in a few weeks. We're just beginning to get it online. So thank you very much, and on to the business at hand. Thanks, Oscar.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so I'm going to introduce very quickly our candidates, and they're seating in alphabetical order. So immediately to my left is Margaret Capriles, Ellen Khmer, Lisa Matichuk, Jim Neal, Ken Rosenberg, Mercedes Salem, Pat Showalter, Lenny Siegel, and Greg, you next? Very good. Yes, all right. Okay, so here are the rules. So before we begin to have opening remarks, we do have our timekeeper, which is right here in the front, and he will give you a 15-second warning and then have you stop. We will have 1 minute to answer each question, so please be very concise. We also have several topics that we will discuss, for example, housing, transportation, and economic development. The first question that I ask will be of each candidate will answer have the opportunity to answer that question. Then we're going to go into what we call a rapid fire, and I will ask the same question of 2 or 3 candidates, and then we'll move on to another question and ask other candidates. The reason we're doing this, again, there's a lot of candidates, and we're trying to get through as many questions as possible. Okay? And again, just a reminder that from 8 to 8:30 afterwards, we will have a reception that you can come and ask the candidates some additional questions and get to know them. Okay, so we are going to start off with presenting the candidates, and for your opening remarks, you will have 2 minutes each. So, Margaret.
Good evening. Thank you very much for taking the time to come and get to know us. My name is Margaret Caprilis, and I have lived in Mountain View for over 45 years. My husband Bob and I have raised our family here, and during that time I got very involved in children activities, all kinds of volunteer things that come up when you have children. So after that, I went to work as a business and data analyst in information technology for Hewlett-Packard. And I always felt like I wanted to give back to Mountain View that had given so much to our family, just the way that we could come together as community. And so when I was ending the end of my 27-year career at Hewlett-Packard, I enrolled in Leadership Mountain View. I thought that that would help me find what was out there that needed my skills and my help. So I enjoyed the program so much. I was on the advisory board for 2 years after that, and then I got on the board of the YMCA. And I served there and was given the Distinguished Service Award in 2012. So after that, I thought, well, now what could I do? So I did run for council in 2012. And I came very close to getting on the council, and I wanted to stay involved, so I am on the Environmental Planning Commission now, and I have learned so much about this city, so much more, and so I am ready to take the next step, and I look forward to working hard and making the city what we want and serving you on the city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Okay, Ellen.
Thank you, Oscar. So good evening. My name is Ellen Khmer. It's wonderful to see so many of you in the room who, like me, love Mountain View. Mountain View is my home, and my family has roots in the city for over 7 decades. I am a third-generation Mountain View resident. I am the granddaughter and daughter of a family-owned and operated flower-growing business right here in Mountain View. It was located on Bryant Avenue near Mountain View High School, where our relatives actually had an adjoining flower-growing business as well. Like many of you, over the years, I have seen the changes in the city. I especially have seen the changes over the last 2 years on the Environmental Planning Commission, of which I'm the vice chair this year. As we grow and change, I think it's important to have a balanced approach to our future. Mountain View's quality of life is really what makes it so special, and there are tough decisions that the city faces, and my background has prepared me. I have a master's degree in public administration, nearly 8 years in the public sector, and my current experience on the Environmental Planning Commission enables me with the toolkit necessary to advocate for you, the residents. I'm invested in Mountain View, and I'm invested in you. I'm running for council to bring public service to our community and make Mountain View the best place to live, work, play, and learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Okay, Lisa.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Matichuk. I've lived in Mountain View for 15 years as a renter and also a townhouse owner. And Mountain View is a great place to live. I live in the North Wisman area, which, for those of you who don't know where that is, it's in the northeast quadrant of the city, close to Ellison 101. I've been actively involved in the community for the past 7 years. I'm the founding president of the Wagon Wheel Neighborhood Association, which is in the Wisman area, and it's about 1,000 homes. I was appointed to the city's Environmental Planning Commission in 2010, so I'm in my 5th year on the EPC. I served as chair in 2013 and vice chair in 2012, which is when the most recent general plan was adopted. I've worked in the high-tech industry for over 25 years, and I have a master's in business administration. Because I deeply care about the quality of life, our neighborhoods, and the economic vitality of the city, I'm running for council. With my background and experience, I'm in a great position to help guide the future of the city. The cost of housing is top of mind for many folks, and in order to address this, we need really great regional and local public transportation. In addition, we can absolutely build more homes, actually in the Wisman area, as the zoning and infrastructure are already in place in that part of town. But let's remember, there are a broad range of topics that the council addresses, and two that I also want to prioritize are adding more parks and open space, because it's really important to have nature close to where you live, and we need to preserve the city's financial health and maintain our vibrant economy so that Mountain View remains the great place that it always has been. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Jim?
Hi, my name is Jim Neal, and most people don't get this right away, but I'm not from California. I'm a transplant from the Midwest, and I've been here about 25 years now, and one of the things that's been very interesting to me is that as I've worked in the tech industry and moved from job to job, I've also lived in a number of different places. I've lived in Hayward, I've lived in Oakland, I've lived in San Francisco, I've lived in Richmond. You name it, I've probably lived there. But 8 years ago, I got to Mountain View, and you know what? I stopped moving from place to place. I got to Mountain View, and for the first time, I had friends that I could spend quality time with. I had neighbors that cared about what was going on in my life. I found a city where the people were warm, where it reminded me a lot of where I came from. The people seemed to value the same things about, having good schools, having nice homes, and basically, just wanting to work hard and make sure that their, community stayed nice. And so in the last 5 years, I've lived in the same home, and I've gotten to meet a lot of great people, but in the last 2 years, I've seen a lot of changes in Mountain View. I've seen changes, some that are good and some that are not so good. And so the reason that I want to run for city council is because I believe that not enough of the people who live here are being represented here. If you look at my website, you will see that I have no special interest backing me. And there's a reason for that, because I tell people that I will answer your questionnaires, but I do not want the endorsement of any special interest, because the only special interest I'm interested in is the people who are going to be voting, because that's who I'm going to be representing. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Ken?
Thank you to the Chamber, the League of Women Voters, Microsoft, and of course, you. I am Ken Rosenberg, and I love Mountain View. I do. I love being part of groups that are actively participating in the betterment of our city. And as a result, I've spent nearly 2 decades becoming more and more involved in the community. The more things I've done, the more I love what I do. And I say this without irony because I've developed fantastic relationships along the way. I started out with a focus on the neighborhoods by joining the old Mountain View Neighborhood Association. And it was my experiences there that shaped me for years to come with respect to my choices for civic involvement. My goal as chair was to try to be as inclusive and unifying as I could, because that is who I am, and that is something that I would bring to council. The list of Mountain View organizations that I have chaired or lead is long. In fact, it's the longest of all the candidates. Consequently, I have the longest set of Mountain View-centric endorsements. My involvement includes the Chamber of Commerce, Leadership Mountain View, the Downtown Committee, the Human Relations Commission, just to name a few. One thing I hope you consider is not just somebody's resume, however, but what they've actually and already have done for Mountain View. For example, I specifically joined the HRC to develop a forum to discuss the most challenging and controversial issues of our day. It is called the Civility Roundtable Discussion Series. It is award-winning, and it is seen nationally as a model for civic discourse. My priorities for Mountain View include traffic, housing, land use, and of course, improving the dialogue as we together try to solve these challenging issues. And although it wasn't my intention years ago, I am running for council today because my Mountain View-based experiences have led me here. And along the way, I have already contributed to improving the life of the residents of Mountain View. My kids and yours are counting on us to maintain it. I hope to earn your vote. You can find out more at mountainviewken.com. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. Mercedes?
Hi, my name is Mercedes Salem, and I'm running for Mountain View City Council because I want to ensure that Mountain View residents, small businesses, and families thrive in Mountain View. And that is becoming increasingly more difficult month by month, year by year. We're seeing our friends getting priced out of Mountain View and leaving because they can no longer afford to live here. Now, I've made Mountain View my home for the last 4 years, and I absolutely love living here. The moment I moved here, I felt at home. I felt like this is the place where I am going to put down roots, and I have done that. I also am a self-made woman. I paid my way through undergrad and through law school, both at Santa Clara University. And prior to law school, I worked in the tech industry at various companies like Fujitsu and Cisco and some startups. And after law school, I wanted to become more active and create a better future for the generations to come. I went and I worked on policy issues on Capitol Hill for a variety of number of members in the House of Representatives. And now that I'm back here for the last 4 years, I have been very active in my community. I am on the Mental Health Board of Santa Clara County. We service the county dealing with a variety of issues, not just mental health issues, suicide issues as well, and that directly impacts life in Mountain View. I also serve on the board of Greater Opportunities, which is a nonprofit for developmentally disabled individuals, and we have many consumers in Mountain View. Again, you can find out more about me on my website at voteformercedes.nationbuilder.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mercedes. Okay, Pat?
Hello, everybody. My name's Pat Showalter, and thank you for coming. I've lived in Mountain View for 30 years and raised my children here. I'm a civil engineer that specializes in water resources management. I served on the EPC for 9 years, and I have a firm belief that economic prosperity and environmental protection go hand in hand. I was on the EPC from 1993 to 2002 throughout the dot-com boom and bust. It was a wonderful education, very thorough, in how Mountain View city government works. There were 2 projects in particular that I'm really, really proud of. One was the development of the Wistman Station, which is a neighborhood that's been thriving for the last 8 or 10 years. Another one was helping to draft the below market rate ordinance and the benefit the business linkage fee, which are the basis for our affordable housing programs. In the last 10 years, I've served on the League of Women Voters Board as a natural resources chair, and I also have been on the board of the League of Conservation Voters. Both these organizations are devoted to informing, making more informed voters and good government. I'm a civil engineer, and I work at the Santa Clara Valley Water District on environmental protection and flood protection. Large multi-agency projects like the South Bay Salt Pond are my specialty. Through my volunteer work and my professional life, I've really come to understand that every stakeholder has some great ideas and they need to be listened to. Now in Mountain View, we're facing a high-tech boom that's brought lots and lots of good jobs to Mountain View, but it's also brought, horrible traffic and skyrocketing rents. We need to approve more housing, we need to encourage alternative forms of transportation, and we need to work with our neighboring cities to solve these problems because they don't stop at our borders.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Lenny?
I'm Lenny Siegel. First, I'd like to thank Microsoft, not just for hosting this forum, but for telling us how many employees they have. Another company down the road refuses to do that. Mountain View's out of balance. In 2012, we had 75,000 jobs and only 41,000 employed residents. That means our roads are congested and housing is scarce and too expensive. Our kids can't live here, people who work here can't live here, and a lot of longtime residents are being displaced. So I call on you to work with me to not just elect me, but elect an entire council to influence the current council to solve the jobs housing imbalance by having more housing, restricting employment, and even housing here in North Bayshore, a new residential neighborhood that's multi-story and fits the environment of today. Speaking of environment, this jobs housing imbalance threatens our quality of life, our diversity, and the natural environment. And that's what I've been working on professionally since the late 1970s. I started out as a local activist around the cleanup of the semiconductor industry. Fortunately, I'm still doing that. So we keep discovering more hot spots in the neighborhood over here. But basically, I've both locally and nationally, I've learned to work with the military, environmental regulatory agencies, industry, elected officials, including Congress, nonprofit organizations, to solve these problems together, to clean up the environment, to clean up Superfund sites, to protect habitat, create renewable energy in our community and nationally. And part of that is getting housing near where people live, smart growth for Mountain View, solving the jobs, housing imbalance. That's why I'd like you to vote for me, but not just vote for me, but show up at the council meeting on September 9th to deal with the North Bay Shore Precise Plan, because we've got to change course or we're in big trouble.
Thank you, Lenny. Greg?
Okay, hello, I'm Greg Unangst. My wife and I live in a small townhome complex on West Middlefield, and we've been there for 16 years. I grew up in Detroit in a lower middle-class blue-collar family with not a lot of options. Somehow I was able to get into West Point and graduated from there in 1968. I spent a year in Vietnam. I was wounded, but I survived. After Vietnam, the Army sent me to the University of Pennsylvania to acquire a graduate degree in electrical engineering, and while I was there, I also was able to get an MBA from the Wharton School. After leaving active duty, I used my veteran benefits to attain yet another graduate degree from New York University in public policy. This education has propelled a 33-year career in aerospace, which has provided me a very nice lifestyle and a relatively secure retirement. The education, all this is enabled by you, the U.S. taxpayer, who has paid for this world-class education. Running for City Council is an opportunity to pay this debt forward. While on council, my priorities will be a better balance between housing and jobs. More housing needs to be made available to middle-class and lower middle-class families. And yet, since this is a massive regional problem, Mountain View needs to lead the way in finding solutions to these tough issues. We need to have increased emphasis on alternate transportation systems. We need to move away from a car-centric approach into a more balanced approach between cars, bikes, pedestrians, and transit. As the population density increases, there's going to be more demand for parks, and we must make every opportunity to acquire park acreage. We still need to continue good governance and conservative fiscal practices while delivering the needed services and amenities to the citizens. We need to
Thank
plan
you,
for the
Greg.
future. Thank you.
Thank you.